I don't really have like some funny intro where I parody another YouTuber or anything. Couldn't come up with one. Here we are, folks, the volume that is considered to be the worst volume of Rwby. So that means we can all get along now, right? Right? Now, do I think this is the worst volume of the show? No, there are far worse volumes, but that doesn't mean volume 5 isn't really bad. Here is one of the biggest issues that this volume has. The pacing is atrocious. You know how I said in the previous video that I believe a lot from volume 4 could have been cut out and just put the stuff that are in volume 5 in that volume? I still stand by that, because volume 5 does barely anything to progress the story or this universe. One of the biggest complaints this volume has is that the characters just stay in one location throughout the whole volume. While I wouldn't really call it filler, considering the stuff they talk about are important to the overall story, I will say that it's just padding till we get to the last few episodes where all the actual stuff happens. And another issue that this show has is that the main characters have like absolutely no reason to be involved in the main story. I have already mentioned countless times that they are poorly developed, which cripples the whole show. But also the fact that this plot about the maidens, which is supposed to be this big deal that is like very dangerous, and the best thing they can do is get a bunch of first year dropouts to help them, instead of getting actual huntsmen to do it from the very beginning. I guess volume 5 killed my grandma, set my house on fire, and forced me to eat a sock. And before we begin, I want to once again give a huge thanks to Honeycomb in helping me out making some of the points in this video. This wouldn't have been possible without her help. So yeah, let's begin. The volume starts off with Team Ranger and Crow walking through some tunnel to enter the city of Mistral, and Nora literally complains about the fact that they have been walking all the way there.
Whose idea was it to walk again?
So the show acknowledges the fact that they have been walking to Mistral for 6 to 8 months when they could have been utilizing public transport. And this is what I mean with volume 4 being so largely unnecessary, because a lot of the stuff they do in volume 5 could have been used in volume 4. None of the characters had to go and walk all the way to Mistral when they could have made it so that they arrived in Mistral and the plot could have continued from there.
Well, we did face many obstacles. Broken airships, destroyed settlements.
Ren, shut up. No one cares about your whole, well, we faced many obstacles nonsense when all of this could have been avoided if you just used public transport. You guys were almost about to get killed like twice in the last volume. So we finally enter the city of Mistral and we get a bunch of 2D artwork on how this place sorta looks like. And also this is the only time we are ever gonna see the city, because the rest of the volume does not focus on them exploring the city at all. You mean to tell me we wasted all of the previous volume for this? You cannot be serious. Yeah, wow, look at this place we're never gonna visit. By the way, remember when one of the characteristics in volume 1 was that Rwby was like sorta a weapons nerd?
Well, I'm kind of a dork when it comes to weapons. I guess I did go a little overboard in designing it.
Well, check this out.
Oh my gosh, look at all the weapons!
And it's gone. Well, thank you for that short line. She will not truly talk about weapons ever again. So much for being a dork when it comes to weapons. So after that we cut to Weiss being on an airship on her way to Mistral. Because remember in the last volume it was established that Winter was in Mistral and she's gonna go there looking for her, I guess. So they get a distress signal from their thing which indicates that someone is trying to communicate with them. Now something I want to note is that at first I thought, how are they able to communicate when the communication towers are down and they can't communicate outside of the kingdoms, because volume 4 established that Vale has wireless communication within the kingdom, and the same is applied to Mistral later on. Well, then I realized I was completely wrong on this point, because the airship Weiss was on picked up a distress signal under a certain frequency using radio signals. The guy says,
I don't know. Still over Lake Matsu. Shouldn't be picking up broadcasts this far from Mistral.
Meaning it has nothing to do with the communication towers. So I guess I owe the show an apology. So now we cut to Team Ranger, who are finally at Haven Academy. And Haven Academy is the most boring place ever, because it's not only empty with no one around, which is understandable because school hasn't started yet, but also we barely explore this place at all. All we get is Lionheart's office and this place and the outside. Wow, how riveting. So they all go inside and notice that no one is here, and crows say that this isn't right, and they all ready their weapons. And then we get introduced to Leo Lionheart, who is the headmaster of Haven Academy. Lionheart mentions that his staff are gone, and Crow gets mad, wondering who's gonna guard the relic.
I'm afraid most of my staff is currently away until classes resume, but...
What? Leo, you can't be serious. Who's guarding the relic?
Because, you know, apparently they have to guard something that they don't even know about. And before we can continue with that, we are now cutting back to Menagerie, which is once again one of the worst arcs in this volume. So Blake walks out on her balcony and asks the guard to leave because she needs some time to herself.
You need better security.
Wait, what? How the heck did no one sense that Elia is nearby spying on them? I have to keep reminding the show that people can sense someone watching them with their aura without them even knowing they're there.
Have you ever felt like you were being watched without knowing that someone was there?
Yeah.
I will play this freaking clip of Pyrrha as many times as necessary. Stealth is impossible in Rwby.
I'm not good at a lot of memory-related things. It's really, really bad.
Also, you're telling me there was a guard here this whole time? Where was she in the last volume? You're telling me Sun was able to spy on Gira and Blake without anyone guarding the balcony? And also, shouldn't she have been able to sense that Elia was nearby as well? The same should apply to Blake. You cannot be serious. So Elia wants to talk to Blake, and Blake mentions that the scroll they took from Elia was apparently not enough to arrest the White Fang brothers.
Corsic and Finnick blamed you. We confronted them tonight and they denied knowing anything, and everything we found on your scroll, they talked about how disappointed they were to hear that you'd sided with Adam. But you and I both know they're guilty.
Blake just jumps to conclusions that they are both guilty, but it's funny considering they only blame the White Fang branch in Vale that do all of these things. So technically Blake has no reason to believe they are truly guilty, since they said they both operate differently to how Adam does. They denied any claim and said they were disappointed that Elia is siding with Adam. The show wants us to believe that the White Fang only has one leader that has the say on everything. It's not like the White Fang operate as different factions all over the world that run things differently, but I think that's what they want to imply here. But it's bizarre because the previous volumes never mentioned such a thing to be the case. It made it seem like they all operate the same way, which is why Blake left the group entirely. If Sienna was so pro-murder, then why did Blake not leave when her parents left the White Fang? They never mentioned that they brought the scroll to the police, only that they confronted the brothers. Because if they did, then the brothers would be under investigation to actually find concrete evidence that they are behind it as well. Since they operate in Menagerie, they would have a base there as well. If they are part of the White Fang, then they would be brought in for interrogation. And if they didn't do anything at all, then they would be let go. But the scroll would be enough to arrest Elia, since it literally says that they are planning to assassinate Sienna. But this is pretty stupid, because why would Elia even have this info on her scroll? Reminder that the only reason Gira and Blake found out about Sienna's assassination is because Elia so happened to drop the scroll and she didn't even attempt to get it back in the first place, despite the fact it has top secret White Fang information on it. You cannot be serious.
That scroll might not have been enough to lock them up, but it's enough to sway the Faunas here. When we go public tomorrow, they're not going to stand for any of it.
Sway the Faunas? I'm sorry, did this show forget that a lot of the Faunas are already against the White Fang? I thought the thing Sun said in Volume 4 is supposed to imply that to be the case.
Are you familiar with the White Fang?
Of course. I don't think there's a faunus on the planet who hasn't heard of them. Stupid, holier-than-thou creeps that use force to get whatever they want. Bunch of freaks, if you ask me.
If the Faunas know that the White Fang are terrorists, then what exactly is there to sway? Do they seriously want me to believe that no one outside of Menagerie went to see the tournament at the Vital Festival? Or that they don't read the news? Reminder that the whole point of the Vital Festival was to bring together people all over the world to celebrate their cultures. Seeing that Faunas are free to leave this island, that can likely mean that they went to see the tournament. Oh, but that's right, no one knew what happened and it's Atlas's fault for the fall of Beacon or something. You cannot be serious. So now we cut back to Lionheart's office.
Reckless is leaving one of the relics completely unguarded. It's not checking in with Oz for ages.
There was nothing to check in about before the fall of Beacon, but since that day, Mistral has been in chaos.
What? Do you not regularly check in with your coworkers about the well-being of the relics and your people? If Lionheart has not been communicating with Osmond for ages, then how come none of you made any effort to actually contacting him before the fall of Beacon? Did you not have his phone number? This is just really stupid. This is not only poor communication between the people you are supposed to be trusting important information to, but also it's a really bad look on all of you for not actually doing something about it. If Lionheart hasn't been communicating with you guys at all before the fall of Beacon, then why didn't you at least attempt to personally go to him and ask him why he's not been contacting you guys at all? This is inexcusable.
Vale wasn't the only kingdom to suffer that night. Everyone was watching. Every house in every kingdom saw that poor girl ripped to pieces, saw monsters crawling over the city, Atlesian knights attacking citizens. With all that negativity, you can imagine what it was like when the Grim came for us. Mistral's controlled territory is the widest reaching in the world, you know, and that makes it infinitely harder to protect. We lost so many great huntsmen, and it's only gotten worse.
So that no one outside of Vale saw the broadcast Cinder hijacked. People at the tournament from all over the world coming to watch it all saw that it was hijacked. This info would have been spread around everywhere, and even the council should be aware of that. People like Glinda, who was Ospin's assistant, would have told people what actually happened there. This whole thing of no one knows what happened is complete bull.
Why is the Spring Maiden so important?
The 4 maidens each have the power to perform feats of magic, and they are the only ones capable of reaching the relics.
The relics are each locked inside a chamber that can only be opened by a specific maiden.
Yes, so the whole reason the maidens exist in this show is because they're the only ones that can open the door to the relics, which just makes them glorified keys and nothing else. I'm not joking. The maidens have no actual relevance in the story outside of opening the doors to the relics. Absolute zero. You could have easily replaced them with magical keys and nothing would have changed. Because reminder, we already have the characters performing magical stuff using their semblances and dust. Oh, but that's right, those aren't magic apparently. It's only when you're a maiden.
Spring is the problem.
What happened to her?
She was determined at first, when she inherited her powers. But the weight of responsibility proved to be too much for the child. She ran, abandoned her training, everyone. That was over a decade ago. There's no telling where she could be now.
I know. At least, I have a pretty good idea. I did some digging around. Looks like after Spring ran away, she was picked up by bandits. Specifically, the Brownwind tribe.
What? She has been gone for over a decade now? So she has been missing for 10 years and Crow only comes with that info that it might be with Raven now? Are you serious? You guys said the maidens are important, so why would Crow come out with this info 10 years later? Did you not tell Osmond about that? And where exactly did you get this info? Whatever, who cares? Too much information. We have to be vague about your show because our audiences shouldn't care. And reminder that the Brownwind tribe's camp is in like some open area surrounded by walls and not inside a secret cave or anything. You're seriously telling me that they have not been found for 10 years? Crow has not been with them for a very long time, yet Crow has never decided to stop the Brownwind tribe since they are bandits who raid villages, kill people and steal their stuff for over 10 years?
That's about where they've set up their main camp. It's where they fall back to after raids and scouting missions. Raven's managed to gain a lot of followers since she returned to the tribe.
This tribe has been growing for years and you decide to only now confront them? You cannot be serious. So Lionheart says he can go after the tribe in a few weeks if he's able to convince the council that he needs huntsmen more than they do.
And damn the council, we'll do it ourselves. You and I are trained huntsmen, and these kids aren't exactly pushovers.
What? You seriously expect the kids who almost died to Tyrion to go to fight off an entire tribe who, by the way, have been trained to kill huntsmen according to what Raven says later on? Seriously, this is one of the stupidest things you could come up with. So now they're talking about Cinder and ask Lionheart about any info they could find on them.
We pulled their files after the fall of Beacon. Nothing but lies and forgeries.
Now, here's something I gotta mention. Back in my Volume 2 review, I questioned how Cinder was able to get inside Beacon and join the tournament. And one of the defenses I got was because Lionheart gave them fake documents. Now, sure, this is an explanation as to how they entered, but it's still not a solid defense. Because you have to take into account about the fact that the students and teachers from Haven have never seen them before. And the fact that they have all used their real names during the tournament and not fake ones. I could buy that no one knows who Emerald is because we didn't really get any info on her, but we know that Cinder was like the daughter of her evil stepmom in Volume 8, which I won't go into detail, and that Mercury is the son of a well-known assassin, which is very suspicious. What makes this even worse is the fact that Cinder actually outed herself as someone who is from Mistral in her speech.
As someone who hails from Mistral, I can assure you, the situation there is equally undesirable.
And you have to keep in mind that she did not filter her voice at all, so it's easy to recognize as to who the person is. Why did she not filter her voice to make it unrecognizable? Yet they want me to believe that the people blame Atlas for the fall of Beacon and not Mistral? Wouldn't Mistral be under investigation after learning that Cinder is from Mistral? And the fact she was able to make her way inside Beacon and join the tournament? The police would also put Lionheart under investigation and search his office. If they are able to find the communicator he uses to talk to Watts, then this whole thing with Salem is in shambles and Lionheart would be under arrest.
We need to be positive we can apprehend Spring, because if we fail, Raven and her tribe will scatter. We get one shot at this.
You know, Oz wouldn't be happy with any of this if he were here.
Perhaps you're right, but he's not. I'm doing the very best I can.
We have got to work on your improvisational skills.
What? What exactly did he say that was unreasonable? He explained that Mistral is in chaos and that the council desperately needs huntsmen. He can't just easily tell the council that he needs huntsmen when the whole story relies on the fact that no one knows about the maidens and relics. To me, that whole conversation sounded pretty reasonable on his part. So we cut to the scene that was at the end of Volume 4 where Oscar meets Crow, and Crow gives him Osmond's cane. Nothing really much to say here. After this, we cut to this gas station in the middle of nowhere where Yang is chilling, and this shady guy approaches her and is acting like a creep.
Her hair.
So what exactly was the whole point of Volume 4, where Tai told Yang she should control her anger? It's not really an arc she goes through in this volume, because it's never really treated like it hinders her or anything. It's even celebrated in this scene with the bartender dude thanking her for doing it. Also, I guess he had his aura turned off for some reason. Once again, I gotta ask, why would people ever want to turn off their aura in this universe? Because if he had his aura turned on, he wouldn't have lost his tooth from this punch. So they all sit in the house and they finally meet Oscar, which, by the way, this volume also does absolutely nothing with developing his character. He's just there because Osmond is in his mind. Seriously, what's the point of introducing this brand new character out of nowhere if you're not gonna do anything with him, instead of just having Osmond be in one of the main characters we've seen from the past volumes? So now Watts meets up with Lionheart to go talk to Salem on her clicking crystal ball on the worst thing. He pretty much tells Salem what he discussed with Crow and that they pinpointed the location of the Spring Maiden, but it's so weird how like Salem does not show any appreciation or respects Leo at all.
Is that so? Well done, Arthur.
Even when Leo is just doing his best to warn Salem that they have to hurry up, she just grabs him by his throat and threatens to kill him. I'm sorry, but this is just not something you should do when you have to sway someone into working for you, because there is a chance that they would want to betray you even if it's like their last moments. Lionheart is being loyal to Salem and giving her everything that she wants, yet she shows no sign of like respecting Lionheart at all. What happened to this whole mother figure thing in Volume 4 when all Salem does is just antagonize the people that are working for her? Leo did like absolutely nothing wrong and she's like choking him. Why is she doing that? Well, because she's evil. Never mind the fact that Cinder completely failed to get the relic in Vale, yet Salem was completely fine with her. But she's not fine with Lionheart telling her where the maiden is that was lost for over 10 years by this point. Yeah, okay. So Salem orders Cinder to meet up with Watts to go visit Raven and tell her that she has to cooperate, otherwise they'll kill her. After that, we cut back to Weiss on that airship, and that other airship that contacted them earlier is under attack by Unversed, and Weiss is ready to go and fight them.
You're carrying dust, right?
Officially, no. Actually, yes.
Wait, what? You're unofficially carrying dust? Isn't that a cargo ship? Is he saying that he sells dust illegally? At first I thought to myself that the reason he was able to sneak Weiss on board an airship and fly off is because he had containers that carry dust. But if he's saying that he's carrying dust unofficially, then how the heck was he able to lift off? Who gave the authorization? Because you have to remember the whole dust embargo thing. They aren't allowed to ship any dust anymore outside of Atlas. Did they just steal an airship? If so, then that's not a good look on Weiss and the pilot at all once they find out. The pilot would most certainly be arrested, and also how the heck are you even gonna be able to steal an airship? I guess you could just easily steal an airship in Remnant, cause Cinder was able to do the same thing with the ambulance. Seriously, why would you include such a line? Just cut that out. So first off, she uses wind dust in order to push them back, like that did nothing. But then she uses fire dust to shoot fireballs. Why don't you just use that swipe attack with the wind and just burn all of them, like the same move in volume 1? The fireball thing she does doesn't really help because she keeps missing her shots. Also, you have to remember that Weiss is so overpowered that she can literally use time dilation, so maybe she should be using that as well to give her more time. Wait, what? So you can summon fireballs that you can just aim in any direction you want? Then how the heck did you miss your shots at the beginning? So now there's a big Unversed and she shoots a bunch of like lasers at it, which do absolutely nothing. I don't understand why Weiss couldn't attempt to just freeze the enemy. She could literally hold its wings in its place with her glyphs and just freeze it, or cut it, or burn them or something. Considering she was able to freeze a big Unversed in volume 1 that took a while to break out. Seeing that you can redirect your shots, I would likely assume that you can do the same with ice dust, because why wouldn't you? But okay, so the thing she does later on, which is like the stupidest thing she did, is to take all the crates that contain dust and throw it all at the enemy. Like, seriously, Weiss? What if you encounter like more enemies along the way? You'd have like no ammo anymore to defend yourself against them. And for some reason, despite her doing that, the Unversed is somehow still alive. I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like they just buffed the Unversed ever since volume 4. Because like in volume 1 to 3, they can all destroy like Unversed no problem. But here, it's like it survived a big explosion from all this dust, which like shouldn't really be possible. But okay, maybe this is like some different type of Unversed that can just survive huge explosions, I guess. But then she decides, screw it, I'm gonna summon this knight. And they even show that Weiss is able to teleport it around with her glyphs. Why did you do that from the very beginning instead of wasting all the dust? Seriously, this is like the dumbest thing you can do. And they crash the ship, and that's it for Weiss. So now we cut to like the White Fang base, where we get introduced to this brand new character called Sienna, who is the leader of the White Fang. Now you'd probably asking yourself, who the heck is Sienna? I thought Adam was the leader of the White Fang, and you'd be right. If you haven't watched the Adam short from volume 4, then you'd have no idea who this is, which is also really stupid because they're seriously expecting me to do my homework outside of the show just to learn about this random character that is completely irrelevant to the story. If she was this prominent leader, then why the heck was she never mentioned in the previous volumes? Like, the only reason she exists is so that Adam can kill her so that he can take over as the leader of the White Fang. But like, why introduce this random character just for that? It's as if the only reason she exists is to make Adam look even worse than he already was or something. So you literally wasted your entire time creating this brand new character just so she dies. Anyone would have assumed that Adam was the leader of the White Fang with all the info we are given in the previous volumes. Introducing this random character just so she dies and Adam becomes the leader is so unnecessary. But then again, they also completely changed Blake's backstory and gave her parents and made her father like the previous leader of the White Fang, which would just make me question, like, if Gira knows that Adam is a violent killer and that Sienna supports it, then why in the heck did Gira allow her to become the next leader of the White Fang? Is Gira stupid? So anyways, Adam asks her that she grants the assault on Haven Academy, me. I think the show completely forgot that Adam was forced into attacking Beacon because he was threatened by Cinder, and Adam disapproved about the fact that he wanted to attack Beacon in the first place.
I'm not good at a lot of memory-related things. It's really, really bad.
But she refuses, and then she confronts Adam about the fall of Beacon. But like, I'm sorry, you have to keep in mind that this takes place 6 to 8 months after the events of Volume 3, which is what the writers established. I want to note though, I know that this is technically info from outside the show, but at the same time, I'm supposed to believe that the characters have aged a bunch by the time of Volume 6 to 9. So why did it take Sienna this long to confront Adam about the fall of Beacon? Adam could have been plotting something against your wishes around that time, which he obviously did, yet you decided to confront him about this now? You cannot be serious.
I was one of the first to suggest violence where violence was necessary. I will not allow humanity to push us down without pushing them back. But the destruction of the Huntsman Academies crosses a line. The loss of the CCT has brought global communication to a crawl, and the White Fang is more of a target now than ever before.
So what, you're completely fine with terrorism around the world, but you're not fine with the fall of Beacon? How are you not big targets already? You guys are terrorists all over the world to what Osmond calls the time of peace. If you are fine with causing terrorism around the world at the time of peace, then that would already make you big targets on the fact that you are disturbing the peace and causing all this negativity around the world. Again, what's the point of this character when Adam could have been the leader from the very beginning?
You have justified humanity's campaign against us. And for what? Empty promises from a group of humans? Humans we still know nothing about and come and go as they please.
You have known about Adam working with humans who come and go as they please, yet you decided to confront Adam about this 6 to 8 months later? Why didn't you do something about this sooner? So Adam calls in Hazel to do absolutely nothing, and then he betrays Sienna and her guards follow Adam. Seriously, why did you bring him in if you were just gonna betray Sienna without his knowledge? What was Hazel even gonna do if Sienna didn't comply? Like nothing?
If you think I'll just step aside and follow beneath you, you're wrong.
Okay, seriously. Why did Sienna not activate her aura if she literally saw that everyone in the room is betraying you? If she had her aura turned on, then Adam would not have been able to easily stab her like this. I guess her aura just went on vacation. And also, Sienna just gets one-shotted by Adam in the stomach despite the fact that Blake got stabbed by him as well and that Yang got her arm cut off, yet they both still survived. I assumed that they had like super durability, but if she just dies this easily, then both Blake and Yang should be dead as well. You pretty much nerfed this person who is supposed to be the leader of the organization and doesn't even go down without a fight. How crap is this character?
All who were here tonight will claim that Sienna was murdered by a human huntsman.
Okay, so your defense as to what happened here is just say she was murdered by a human? How the heck is anyone supposed to believe this? Because reminder that people can sense people without them knowing they're there.
Have you ever felt like you were being watched without knowing that someone was there?
Yeah.
How the heck was a human supposed to come in and kill only her, but not any of the guards? Wouldn't it be suspicious that no one here hit the alarm or alerted anyone else in the building that there was an intruder that killed their leader? The proof that it was a human huntsman is what exactly? Just their word? What if the others started asking what the huntsman looked like or what weapon they used? Because if they inspected her body, then they would see that she got stabbed by a sword. Like, the scene is just so bad. So now we cut back to Weiss and we see a bunch of bandits found Weiss. And we finally get to see Raven again. She claims that they hit the jackpot and then she knocks out Weiss. But that's not right, because instead of stepping on Weiss to knock her out, she should be stepping on me. So now we cut to Gira and the others who are preparing themselves for Gira's speech.
Are you ready?
Yes. It won't be easy for the people to hear, but the truth often isn't.
The truth, yes, because apparently everyone is just too ignorant to understand that the White Fang are evil and commit terrible crimes. I guess Sun's description of the White Fang is just all for nothing, because apparently he's just the only one in the world who understands that the White Fang are evil. If the White Fang are so well known to the public, then how do they not know anything about them when people like Sun seems to know that they're terrorists? The Faunus want equality, but I think the first thing they need is to show some credibility. story. So anyways, Gira is given his speech and basically reveals that Adam is at fault for the fall of Beacon, and he also reveals everything that is in Ilya's scroll. He only blames Adam for being the bad guy who causes terror around the world, but if we once again look at Sun, who knew about what the White Fang do, because we have to assume that he has been living his whole life in Vacuole, you know, the desert kingdom where he is from. If he knows about the White Fang being evil, then it wouldn't be just because of Adam, because Sienna would have also been the one to approve of all the actions. But what makes it worse is that Gira actually defends Sienna in his speech.
It's true that I do not fully condone many of her methods. What I do condone is what Sienna fights for. The idea that the Faunus and humans are, and should be, equal. Adam Taurus does not seem to have that goal in mind.
That's such a horrible defense to give to someone who condones terrorism around the world. You know, Sienna did a lot of bad things, but at least she believed in something. Like, are you kidding me? That's like comparing someone evil from the real world and saying, oh, well, they did a lot of bad things, at least they believed in something. You don't kill people for the sake of equality.
Plan is to strike on the last full moon before the beginning of the fall semester. Roughly 2 months from today. I have sent my swiftest messenger to the government of Mistral.
Wait, what? You sent your messengers to the government of Mistral to warn them about the attack? But he said that the attack of Haven will start in 2 months. Yet throughout the entire volume, we don't see the government like actually do anything about it during that time. And it's not like it takes 2 months to travel to Mistral from Menagerie. Later on in the show, Gira mentioned that it took them 2 weeks to prepare and to travel to Mistral, which I will get to that later because there's issues about that as well. So what the heck happened? Never explained. So anyways, Ilya crashes the party and calls the Belladonnas cowards for siding with the humans. Because remember guys, the humans and Faunus aren't equal in Remnant, despite the fact we have spent 5 volumes in this universe and so far we haven't seen anything drastic. Reminder once again that the only thing we saw was Cardin being a bullet to Velvet, and that's about it. Which by the way, none of the characters attempted to stop any of the bullying that Cardin did, despite the fact that we're supposed to believe that they're against any racism towards the Faunus, especially Blake, who did absolutely nothing. Other than Cardin, no one was ever bothered by any of the Faunus we see walking around. Heck, one of them even owned a bookstore. And it's not like the Faunus are trapped on this island. They are free to leave this island and go somewhere else. I'm not saying racism is like completely gone in this universe, because you know, racism is something like we even struggle in the real world. But if we look at everything that has happened in the show, that just makes some of the characters like Blake or Ilya look like entitled a-holes who keep complaining about how hard their lives are when it's not really.
Where was their help when the dust companies treated our people like slaves? Where was their help when kingdoms hunted Faunus just for being who they are?
You're seriously using arguments of stuff that happened like decades ago? What kind of argument is that?
Where was my help when my parents were killed in a dust mine? Where?
So her arguments are a crappy company, stuff that happened decades ago, and her parents dying in a mine, okay, and Gira does like absolutely nothing to defend his position when it's like such an easy comeback.
They want us to work with the same people that are trying to hold us down.
Oh yeah? Where were you when Faunus died at the fall of Beacon? You literally attacked my daughter and her friend. You literally attempted to murder Sienna. You murdered all of those people and caused terrorism across the world. You stole all the dust from Vale. You're the reason we have no communication anymore. You're the reason the concentration of Grim is so high currently. Like, there are so many examples that Gira can pick, but he does nothing to like actually defend himself other than to say this.
Young lady, progress takes patience and cooperation.
Like, this is barely anything.
Know that the White Fang will do it for you.
Shut up!
Yes, son, just give up the element of surprise and just yell to reveal your position. I can even accept the fact that Ilya likely would not have been able to detect Sun properly due to being surrounded by other people. But no, Sun is just being stupid and just starts yelling. This scene is so stupid, and what makes it worse is what happens later on in the story. So now we cut back to Team Ranger and Osmond takes control of Oscar's body to talk to the kids. So he basically explains that he has been living for thousands of years, having possessed countless bodies of different people every time he died. But this reveal that he has been fighting Salem for thousands of years pretty much contradicts everything he said in the previous volumes. If he knows about Salem's existence and the fact that she is after the relics that you have hidden underneath every school. Then why exactly would you be against Ironwood sending his forces to protect the people during the tournament and saying this?
This is the size of our defenses. What is it we're expecting to fight?
And also, why would you consider this the time of peace at all, when you have been fighting Salem for thousands of years and is still after the thing you're hiding from her? If that's the case, then you would have taken things more seriously and also not really consider this a time of peace. Especially when we take volume 6 into consideration, but we're not gonna go into that in this video. You're telling me that Osmond has been alive for thousands of years, yet he has done nothing to actually improve the relationships between the faunas and the humans? Are you kidding me? After this, Weiss is being held in a cage by the Bronwyn tribes, and this is where we get introduced to Vernal, who is Raven's right-hand woman.
You're going to ransom me back to my father. Is that it?
It's a shame you're a Schnee. You'd probably do quite well around here.
So their plan is to sell Weiss back to her father? I'm sorry, but how the heck are they gonna arrange this when not only can her father call the cops and huntsmen to stage a rescue and apprehend you guys, but also it would reveal your position, which is not something you want to do because you want to stay under the radar to hide from Salem's followers and the authority. You guys should know that, so if anything, you can't sell Weiss back to her father. All you should have done was kill her because of the chance she would reveal your position and tell the authority about it and her kidnappers if she ever escapes.
What's going to make this complicated is when my sister finds out that I didn't make it to Mistral.
Wait, what? So Winter knows you were heading to Mistral? How? You have like no communication with her. And even so, what exactly was Weiss's plan once she did make it to Mistral? Was she going to enlist for the military in a nation where they don't have any training procedures or something? Volume 4 set up the fact that Winter was there and that was the reason why Weiss went to Mistral. But like, what's her goal there exactly? Never explained. And also, if they know who Winter and the Schnee family are, then they should also know that they have a hereditary semblance that can use summons. Putting her in this dinky little cage without restraining her hands that she can't even move them at all will just guarantee that she will break out. And since she defeated the wasp looking on verse, she could easily summon it and fly away. She can even use time dilation. This is such a horrible plan.
Your sister isn't in Mistral anymore. No Atlas personnel are in Mistral anymore. General Ironwood closed the borders and recalled all of his little troops in tin cans.
Wait, what? Why would they do that? Didn't Volume 4 literally establish that Winter reported to Ironwood that there was a threat in Mistral?
Winter is one of my best. If she's telling me there's a threat in Mistral, then I'm not going to take that news lightly.
If he's not gonna take a threat in Mistral so lightly, then why would he pull back all of his people back to Atlas and not attempt to resolve the issue? Did they just completely forget about that detail?
I'm not good at a lot of memory-related things. It's really, really bad.
That seems pretty out of character for Ironwood to just abandon a supposed threat, especially when in the previous volumes he brought his army to Vale because he was paranoid of there being a potential threat that Crow was reporting back to them. Especially since you're telling me that Gira sent his messengers to Mistral and they've done apparently jack for 2 months. You cannot be serious.
But now we can just take little cute boy Osmond to Lionheart and have him set things straight.
Yeah, we're not sure that's the best idea.
But I thought the headmasters all took their orders from you.
That was the intention, but Crow told me about your meeting with Leonardo. He isn't just behaving irrationally. He's disobeying specific instructions I had left him.
What? He's acting irrational? What about him is irrational? He made perfectly logical arguments as to why he can't just simply order a bunch of huntsmen to go after the Bronwyn tribe. Because they said that the council needs huntsmen because of the spike in unversed activity. That sounds very reasonable. And also specific instructions? What specific instructions? How was he gonna handle specific instructions when everything is in shambles currently? What were even those specific instructions Ospen mentioned? Never explained. You see guys, we need to keep our story vague and not explain important things in our story because our audience clearly don't care about that. You cannot be serious.
But the Mistral Council
doesn't own every huntsman in the kingdom, and I've been here enough times to know where we can find some more. I'll throw together a list tonight.
Yes, keep in mind about the fact that Crow said he was looking for specific huntsmen in Mistral that aren't owned by the council. That's actually pretty weird to think about, that there are huntsmen who don't work for the government, considering they're paying for all these schools where people are trained to become huntsmen, and they also work with the normal police and remnant. So if anything, all huntsmen should be working under the government of Mistral. It's especially weird when Crow mentioned that there are also bad huntsmen in Volume 3. So like, how exactly would the government just allow there to be huntsmen that they don't have any control over to just do whatever they want? Seems highly irresponsible and not very believable, but okay, I guess.
After that, we can move on to step 2. Getting you four into fighting shape.
Oh my god. You are still trying to let these kids tag along. You cannot be serious. They are first year students who got their butt kicked by Tyrion and could have potentially died if Crow didn't come in for the rescue. Seriously, why is Glinda just not involved in this story at all, when she was like Ozpin's assistant in the previous volumes? Or like any other huntsman. Once again, the characters have like nothing to do with anything going on, and you're seriously asking them to come and fight a powerful witch and her underlings? It's not like one of your students died in Volume 3 or anything.
But we already know how to fight.
Yes, Rwby, exactly. Is that why all of your friends almost died fighting Tyrion?
You can only fight so long as you have Crescent Rose, but you're still lacking in hand-to-hand combat.
You're telling me she has been at Beacon for a whole year and she never learned how to fight in hand-to-hand combat? If it's such an important thing that she learns it, then maybe she should have stayed in Signal Academy.
Mr. Ark, I'm glad to hear you've improved, but sorry to say you've yet to unlock your semblance.
I'm sorry, but why are we suddenly making it seem like having a semblance is such an important thing in this universe? Need I remind you that characters like Torchwick and Mercury don't have a semblance at all, but can still fight really well. I thought the most important aspect in this universe is to know how to fight, not that having a semblance is important. Even Pyrrha is like well known for fighting with her sword and shield really well. Yes, she has a semblance that can block out metallic weapons, but not only did she barely use it in the show, but also she is still a very good fighter for a first year student. If anything, Jean has to improve his fighting skills more, and despite telling those two that they have to improve, he gives Nora and Ren absolutely nothing. Probably because those two have no actual characterizations to be worked on, because they're bland characters.
We have approximately 1 month before classes resume at Haven.
Wait, 1 month? But a few minutes ago Gira said it's 2 months.
Roughly 2 months from today.
You know, at first I thought the writers just completely forgot their own continuity in the same episode, and I wouldn't really be surprised because so far that's all they've been doing with this show. Just inconsistencies and contradictions everywhere. I have brought it up on Twitter as well, and the explanation I got, and I'm not kidding here, is that Blake's storyline ever since Volume 4 takes place 1 month before everyone else's story, until they all meet up at the end of Volume 5 again. But like, why? How does Blake's story taking place 1 month earlier benefit the story in any way? If anything, that makes Blake's story look worse, because she spends like 2 months in Menagerie accomplishing absolutely nothing, trying to get help from normal civilians to go and fight the White Fang, instead of going to Mistral and tell the authorities about it as well, which is also unnecessary considering Gira did already say that his messengers were sent there to warn them, but nothing ever happened. And at the end of the volume, the police did show up after Blake warned them, but like, they show up at the last possible hours? You cannot be serious. That training of them just starts and ends in episode 4, which by that time is only like 2 days from episode 1 to episode 4. Why bother doing that when we're only going to see the beginning, no middle and end point? So what, they've trained for only 2 days? There isn't really much of a beginning for Jean and Oscar.
If Salem were to plan an attack, it would make sense that it occur prior to students' return. It's not much time, but it's better than nothing.
Ah yes, apparently 1 month of training will make them prepare for an incoming threat, such as 1 maiden. I'm sorry, 2 maidens.
If Salem were to plan an attack, it would make sense that it occur prior to students' return.
And why exactly are you assuming that is the case? They had 6 to 8 months. They could have attacked Haven around that time. Heck, Salem could be planning the attack the next day for all you know. Why didn't they attack Raven's base in this amount of time? So you have spent a whole month doing absolutely nothing just so you all meet up at the last day where the attack is supposed to happen? If Leo was supposed to gather a few huntsmen in a few weeks, then how come you never contacted him during that time and asked him if he was able to arrange something with the council? The show never showed a scene that explains any of this. My brain is melting. So now we're back with Yang and this shady guy. Last time we saw them, he promised Yang to bring her to someone she was looking for. But surprise, surprise, it was an ambush all along.
This is it. Well, unless you count the whole rest of the camp back that way.
That way.
Are you kidding me? These are supposed to be trustworthy people that Raven hired to be part of the Bronwyn tribes. You know, the people who are supposed to be as strong as huntsmen because Raven was trained to kill huntsmen. Yet she has idiots on her team who not only brought her near their camp, but also told her where they are? You cannot be serious. And oh wow, look, Yang is able to beat up all of them effortlessly. Once again, these people are supposed to be trained huntsman killers. Yet Yang, who was only a first-year student, can easily beat them all up. There's no way that Raven would allow such weaklings in her tribe, especially idiots who bring people near their camp. How no one has found the Bronwyn tribes for years is a mystery. These guys are also so incompetent that their weapons don't even work properly, and also despite the fact that these characters are supposed to have aura, which reminder can tank explosions and stuff, they all get like one-shotted by Yang. They deliberately nerfed the Bronwyn tribe just to make Yang look good. Well, I don't know if nerfed is really the right word, but they definitely are pretty weak, which is also just a trend throughout the rest of the show. The characters run out of aura so quickly just to make them look like they're in trouble to create tension, and this was ever since volume 4. They literally nerfed the entire cast of the show. So now we're getting this little training scene between Oscar and Rwby, and despite the fact we get a scene of Rwby training in hand-to-hand combat, throughout the rest of the show she never actually uses it ever. There is only like one headbutt she does against Mercury later on, and that's about it. Literally, what is the point of giving her hand-to-hand combat training if you're not gonna do anything with it? Why not have her utilize her super speed during her training? You know, the thing she's supposed to be good at and can actually give her some advantage during combat. Now, this is where I have to defend volume 5 for a second. I know, right? Crazy. The Pyromaker 3 defending Rwby. So, people have criticized volume 5 for retconning the way aura works. That Roosterteeth explained that aura is a passive ability and not something you have to activate, which... no, that's not true at all. If you actually look back at what Volume 1 established, Pyrrha literally asks Jean why he didn't activate his aura.
Why didn't you activate your aura?
Now, another thing I have taken from how they framed aura in the earlier volumes is that you can turn it on or off at will. Because not only were the times where characters got hurt, sometimes for a cheap joke, but still, but also at the time when Jean got beaten up by Cardin and then afterwards activated his aura. And also with the way that Pyrrha just casually asks Jean as to why he didn't activate his aura. If it was a passive ability, then she would have asked, why isn't your aura activated, and not, why didn't you activate your aura? Which is why I assumed from the info that I was given that aura is a force field that you can turn on or off at will. Now, the reason this scene is getting criticized is something I was told on Twitter. So, if you didn't know, there is this other small little series called World of Remnant, where one of the characters would talk about a certain topic regarding the world building in Rwby. Just the fact itself that they had to make an entirely different show just to explain to us how this world works, instead of it just being in the main show like any normal human being would think of doing, is already a terrible way of storytelling. But also, there is an entire episode dedicated in explaining how aura works, and get this, they said that it's a passive ability, which is just not true.
Passively coating the wielder in a protective force field.
This freaking episode literally contradicts what was established in Volume 1. And get this, this episode was apparently written by Miles, Carrie, and Monty. I can't believe this episode was written by all three of them and they just completely contradict what was established in Volume 1. Heck, this episode came out after Volume 2, so it wasn't even that far into the show. So if anything, if you want to point the finger at something, it should be World of Remnant and not Volume 5.
Your body isn't used to this kind of training. not to mention generating a defensive aura on your own. It takes intense concentration at first, but in time it will become second nature.
Is that really how that works? Because remember in Volume 1, Pyrrha just easily activated Jean's aura and he was good to go without any drawbacks. If you wanted to have this scene of the character explaining how to generate aura, then it should have been in Volume 1 when Pyrrha explained how it works to Jean. So generating aura yourself will make your body all tired because it's not used to it, but activating it for someone just makes them not tired. Given how Jean is so much of a dunce who loses track of time during the earlier days of Beacon, I refuse to believe that whatsoever. Also, intense concentration? Just activate his aura like Pyrrha did with Jean. I'm pretty sure Jean didn't need to concentrate anything in Volume 1. Also, Rwby acting like it hurts is weird considering Rwby was able to tank an explosion to her face in Volume 1. A headbutt should be nothing to her. Also, once again, they make semblances seem like it's such an important thing that the characters need to have, and Jean is embarrassed about the fact that he doesn't have one. Oh, boo-hoo, let me tell you something, buddy. Not everyone has a semblance. That doesn't mean you need to have one. So now we're back with Yang and they're bringing her to Raven. These two guards just completely abandon Weiss, which is the stupidest thing you can do considering Weiss has the ability to use summons. So Yang finally gets to meet her mom and I want her. And after all of this build up ever since Volume 2, we are finally seeing the payoff for all this trouble.
I'm not here for you. Rwby is somewhere in Mistral. She's with Crow and she's going to need my help. I just need you to take me to her.
Oh. What? Like, you cannot be serious? I guess? After all of that build up, just for this? Okay. So Yang asks her mom to teleport her directly to Crow, but Raven doesn't just easily want to do that. She doesn't want to send Yang to Crow because she doesn't trust Ozpin and doesn't want Yang to get mixed up in all of that nonsense. Which, you know, I agree. If I was asked to stay by Raven Bronwyn, I would gladly take it and ask her out. So Weiss notices Yang, despite the fact that she was right behind this tent and she should have been able to hear Yang's voice, especially when Raven said her name. So Weiss decides to break out now, despite the fact she could have done it like the whole time. Use time dilation and fly away. She could have even used her glyphs to stand on and fly away with, really. Weiss acts completely surprised about the fact that Raven is Yang's mom, which makes it seem like she didn't know who Raven was to begin with. But it's kinda weird, cause given how much Weiss takes pride in trying to be a huntress, she would make herself aware of larger threats in the world like the Bronwyn tribes. When she hears that Yang started speaking with Raven, and she talks to Yang like she's her daughter, she should have pieced it together that that's Raven Yang is speaking to. Also, you're telling me people like Jean know who Yang's mom is because he mentioned her in episode 1.
Yang's mom?
But not Weiss, who is supposed to be one of Yang's best friends and teammates. So they're about to fight the whole tribe, but Raven is like, stop it and come to my tent. Because now she decided that she wants to tell Yang the truth. And that was episode 4. You know, it's really showing at this point how the story barely does anything. All this episode was just half-baked training and exposition dumps. And this half-baked reunion with Yang and her mom, despite the fact they hyped this moment up in the previous volumes. Also forgetting the fact that the after credits of Volume 2 is completely thrown out the window. Volume 2 made it seem like Raven was like working alone, but here they established it's a whole tribe, and Raven really wanted to talk to Yang cause they have so much to discuss. But here it's like she doesn't even want to tell her anything until things have escalated. Like, can you make up your mind on what you want to do? Why hype her up so much if Yang is just not gonna care about her? You cannot be serious. So now Blake and Son are trying to get people to join their forces to go and take down the White Fang in Mistral. But why? Why would we want to ask a bunch of random civilians who can't fight to go and fight off the White Fang? Why don't you two go to Mistral and tell the authority about the threat? Get huntsmen to help. Which, reminder, was something Gira's messengers were supposed to do. Yet the entire volume completely forgets about that. And it's never brought up ever again. Literally, what if the White Fang sends in Unversed again at the attack on Haven? Which is something they did last time. What makes it worse is that Blake doesn't even know if they know what aura is, because remember that Jean didn't know what it was in Volume 1. So it's likely that normal civilians don't know what it is either, which I mentioned is also a problem there, because why would these people not know what aura is when it's like such a useful ability? I wasn't kidding when I said that Blake is the worst character in the show. She's literally sending all these people to their deaths. I'm sure some people would want to help, but I don't think that anyone would be dumb enough to sign up to something that have no chance of getting out alive. I'm kinda amazed how Menagerie has no huntsmen around. You know, seeing as the wildlife is dangerous here according to what Blake said.
It's not like the desert in Vacuo, son. The wildlife here is more dangerous than most other regions.
How can they just sit around and do nothing with the White Fang getting ready to attack?
Because not everyone is like you and me.
Gee, Blake, it's almost like you're a complete idiot.
The fauna here in Menagerie moved here because they were tired of fighting. Menagerie is filled with people that just want to be left alone. And here we are asking them to put the rest of the world before themselves.
Then go to Mistral and get huntsmen for help. You know, the thing you do later on in the volume. And now we get like one of the craziest scenes in the entire show.
Have you ever met someone and thought to yourself, they are the personification of this word?
What? Wow, what a shallow way to view your friends. Who the heck even says such a thing?
I remember getting to know Rwby and thinking, this girl is the embodiment of purity.
This girl is the embodiment of purity. I'm sorry, but that's such a lie. This is the same Rwby who is fine with letting people die on the train that was going to crash and also didn't react when Penny sliced an airship in half that would likely have killed those people. Also, this is the same Rwby who was fine with cutting someone's limb off and not having any reaction about that at all. I never criticized the scene where Rwby cut off Tyrion's tail because not only does it make sense considering the situation they were in, Crow was poisoned and none of them were able to defeat Tyrion, but also because of the fact that Rwby never really showed any remorse towards her enemies throughout the previous volumes. And considering all the other stupid stuff Rwby does later on, which I'm not really gonna go into detail here because once again, I want to try and keep things as chronologically as possible if I can. I'm sorry, rubyrose is not the embodiment of purity if you actually look at the things she does throughout the show. Far from it. I think a really good comparison is with Matt Murdock in the original Daredevil show. Now obviously Matt Murdock is not like perfect. He's not like 100% pure, but he's more of the embodiment of purity than Rwby is. Matt Murdock is a Catholic who not only values human lives, but he believes in redemption. As Daredevil, he doesn't believe that it's his duty to kill people, and this is something that the entire show challenges Matt on. I saw a tweet where someone quotes something that Carrie said, which is, one of the things that makes Rwby Rwby is her love of people and humanity, and I think she's very good at seeing the very best in people even when they don't deserve it. Rwby is like never really challenged on this aspect at all, of her supposed love for humanity, because time and time again, she either doesn't show any remorse for the people that got killed, or like even actively distrusts the people who should be on her side. Heck, sometimes the show wants to pretend as if Rwby always makes the right choices. Like, what about in volume 2 when Torchwick actively killed the people on the highway because Blake and Son lured him there, or the fact that they suffered an adverse invasion? Rwby considers these things as a job well done despite the fact that they got people hurt. Heck, she even celebrates everything she did in the finale. If anything, she should see these missions as failures because they failed to protect the people and caused so much destruction. She should have confronted her team about it and learned to do better next time. That could have actually been for some great character development. It could have actually made Rwby an interesting character, someone who struggles in preserving human lives and learns to become a better leader. But the show never considers any of these moments as something Rwby should learn from. Matt legitimately believed he could change the Punisher, and he even went to the funeral of the guy he killed. He even stopped Bullseye from killing Fisk during the fight, and he never considered killing him after he killed Father Lantham. The closest he came was having the thought of killing Fisk because he kept hurting people and was able to bend the law in his favor, but he still didn't end up doing it because he didn't want Fisk to destroy who he is. What does Rwby get? Like, nothing? You're just perfect just the way you are? Like, wow, what an endearing character.
After a while, I saw Weiss was defiance.
Weiss is defiance. I mean, the only thing she really defies is her father. Or is Blake telling me that Weiss constantly defies the stuff you do with your team? I just imagine Weiss just constantly talks about her daddy issues to Blake or something. Like, what a weak way to describe Weiss.
And Yang was strength.
Yang is strength. I mean, I guess. She most certainly isn't emotionally strong. She only sees her as physically strong. Notice how she calls Yang strength, but not Rwby, who literally saw her friends die and she still got herself quickly up to fight tactfully against the unversed and villains. But like, come on, what a shallow way to view your own friends. They're the embodiment of one word. Like, what?
At first I thought Adam was justice. He was spite, not hatred, not rage, spite. He won't accept equality, only suffering for what he feels the world did to him. That's what worries me about Ilya. She's not like Adam, not yet at least, but I don't know how long that will last.
What? In every sense of the word, he was put into a world that did that to him. She has no regard towards the fact that he likely could have been abused, subjected and tortured and have no one else in his life prior to the White Fang. She has no right to talk bad about Adam being the spiteful person if she was willing to do the same thing later on. Also, isn't it kind of funny how she says Ilya will almost become like Adam and that she trusts that she was gonna stop and join the good side when in volume 3 she didn't even trust Yang at first when the whole world saw that she attacked the kid. Which, by the way, the whole show also just completely forgets about the fact that Yang did that. Blake decides it's in her moral principle to help Ilya now to stop her from doing bad things. Hold up, she's fine with helping Ilya, but she's not okay with attempting to help Adam? You know, the guy who, according to Blake, gradually changed, so she just picks and chooses who she wants to help. Hey Blake, I know how to describe you. You're the embodiment of inconsistent morals. So Oscar is like training and Rwby comes in to have a talk with him. They still do like absolutely nothing to develop Oscar's character. I mean, they have like a discussion about how they're scared, but that's like everyone in the show. And later on he just tags along anyways. I'm kinda surprised he asks Rwby about it, but not Ozpin, who's in his head and lost his position, his school, and very likely his students and staff during the fall of Beacon. And once again, it's just Team Ranger being in this house having random conversation for a whole episode, because they do absolutely nothing. Even if you wanted these characters talk about random stuff, at least make them go outside and like explore the city or something. Like, we spend an entire volume of Team Ranger just walking and we don't even get to see what the city of Mistral looks like? You cannot be serious. Like, here's some ideas. Have Rwby explore these weapon shops, you know, because she loves weapons. Have Nora and Ren like go out and eat or something, I don't know. I mean, heck, why don't you cut out the scene where Jean gets his armor in this random village and put it in Mistral instead? Like, come on. Rwby could even tag along. Those two could have been hanging out again.
We all went to Beacon because we wanted to help people. But you're right. None of us asked for this either.
Yes you did. You literally asked Crow what you should do, which is you actively asking for it. Crow did not need to bring you guys along at all. You guys have nothing to do with this story, and the only reason you're here is because the script says so.
Pyrrha thought that if there was even the smallest chance of helping someone, that it was a chance worth taking. And because of that, died fighting a battle she knew she couldn't win.
Pyrrha is an idiot for going on this suicide mission of taking on Cinder all by herself. If anything, that comes across as like extremely selfish to go and just fight for yourself and not go to safety and help as many people as possible. She didn't even like go to fight to like attempt to save someone or anything. She just told Jean to leave because she for some bizarre reason decided to fight against someone who she knew she had no chance of winning. So now we cut to the two brothers who just ended a message. I'm sorry, but like, how are you guys sending messages to each other when there's no communication?
With the CCT tower still inoperable, we have the luxury of control over the flow of information.
So like, you have like some super secret communication tower or something? You're telling me a terrorist group is able to fix up a way for them to communicate to each other, but the richest kingdom with all of its resources can't fix one tower or like find a temporary way for everyone in the world to communicate? You cannot be serious. So they bring in Ilya and tell her that Adam successfully killed Sienna and is the leader now, I guess. I guess that's it for Sienna. You were relevant for like a few minutes. So now they're ordering Ilya to go and kill Blake's parents and bring Blake directly to Adam, because they're in the way. Seriously, it's been 5 episodes and nothing has happened so far. It's all just setups for the last few episodes. What's the point of this volume? Also, this guy sounds like a discount Semnis.
He carries with him a tremendous burden.
That may be. However, what other choice might we have had?
So now Crow is out looking for the huntsman he mentioned earlier. Now I have to repeat that the huntsmen he is looking for are huntsmen who don't specifically work for the council. I repeat, the ones he is looking for are huntsmen who don't specifically work for the council. He ends up being unsuccessful in finding a single one. So then he goes to look at this list, and the show later on wants to claim that all of them are dead, which is one of the defenses people use for volume 8, but I'm not gonna go into that in full context. But if we actually look at the list that Crow is looking at, like sure, some of them died, but like one of them is only gone for 3 weeks, and one is only gone for 1 week. That doesn't automatically mean that they died. Some of them have been gone for even longer, but even then, sure, it could probably mean that Lionheart intentionally made it look like they have just been missing and are not actually dead. Like even the guy who owes money to this guy. Like just because he owes him money doesn't automatically mean he's dead. But if that is the case, then how come the police are just not involved about the fact that a lot of the huntsmen have mysteriously been missing for so long? Sure, I understand that huntsmen can die, but the fact is they claim that huntsmen are noble warriors. And since we got a glimpse on how the first year students fight in volume 1 and 2, then that should mean that fully trained huntsmen should be way more experienced and hard to kill. So it would be highly suspicious to the authorities that so many huntsmen have suddenly been missing. And by the way, to remind you again, Crow is looking for specific huntsmen that he has on his list. He did not look for every huntsman in Mistral or the entirety of Anima. By the way, if you really want to know how racist the world of Remnant is, then take a look at this. Closer. Closer. Yeah, right there. Wow, guys, that looks pretty bad. Oh my god, the humans must be terrible. Wow, guys, I almost didn't see it because in this shot I'd likely be more focused on Crow here. But thanks that I have to pay attention to some random sign at some random bar that shows how racist the world is apparently. Like, seriously, that's all we get? Yes. So anyways, now we cut back to Yang and the other two goofballs.
You know, you and your teammates might as well be the poster children for the Huntsman Academies. Your motives vary, but you all enrolled to try and make the world a better place.
Isn't that like everyone at the academy? Weiss's motives have like nothing to do with enrolling in Beacon, considering she wanted to take over her father's company. Oh, but that's right, since that whole aspect of her character is gone now, she's just tagging along, I guess, because she got nothing better to do. I can't believe Volume 1 set up this whole thing of her hating the White Fang because they're at war with her family, just so Weiss is not involved with the White Fang stuff, and it never goes anywhere. This is what I assumed was her motivation to go to the Huntsman School in Volume 1, but Volume 2 made the whole Ares thing a priority. Heck, if we go back to the thing I suggested in Volume 4, that she goes to Atlas Academy, that'll actually give her a bigger reason to hate the White Fang, considering what they did to her school, which would likely make her even more focused on becoming a huntress. You could even give her a good reason for going to Mistral by like teaming up with Winter or something and handle the whole threat there. But no, Weiss is given absolutely nothing to do for the rest of the show.
Your Uncle Crow and I didn't attend Beacon to become huntsmen. We did it to learn how to kill huntsmen.
Maybe you should have taught that to your tribe. You literally don't have to enroll as a huntsman to learn how to fight well, considering Emerald and Mercury didn't attend a huntsman school.
Constant attention, extra training missions, turning a blind eye whenever we happen to break the rules and get into more trouble than we should have. Sound familiar?
Okay, so the fact that Raven knows about all of this can just mean one thing. She's able to listen in on people's conversations she has a bond with using her semblance. That would also explain how she was able to save Yang because she heard she was in danger. If that's the case, then why the heck did she not listen in on Crow and Leo's conversation? He literally gives up the location of your tribe. This is something you should be aware of.
Because Old Man Oz has a great and terrible secret. One that he eventually entrusted to our team.
I'm sorry, why would Osman entrust his knowledge on the relics to two people who have a history of being bandits? That sounds like highly irresponsible and also really stupid. The guy who like lived thousands of years should know who the Bronwyn tribe are. If that's also the case, then did Crow and Raven use the real names to enroll into the school? Given how Cinder, Mercury and Emerald and Blake were able to do the same thing, I highly doubt they changed their names.
The creatures of Grimm have a master named Salem. She can't be stopped, she can't be reasoned with, and she will not rest until humanity crumbles at her feet.
What the heck does that mean? You said she can't be stopped, which if we take the later volumes into consideration, that yeah, that's pretty much true. She says she can't be stopped. This is too vague and could mean like a lot of things. Why is she being vague with Yang? How is that supposed to make her side with you? Especially since you mentioned that you kill huntsmen, it's not really a good look for you. That's too vague, Raven. What are you even talking about? So now she wants to prove that magic is real. And how does she do it? Well, get this. She turns into a bird. Oh my god! And for some reason the characters are all wowed over it, despite the fact that they've all done stuff that are far more impressive than turning into one little bird.
You didn't believe what she said, right?
Of course not. We have dust, semblances, but I mean, there's no such thing as magic. There's no such thing as magic.
Yes, Weiss. Dust and semblance are not magic. You know, it's not like everyone has a unique ability exclusive to themselves, and the fact that you can do all kinds of spells with dust. But sure, yeah, according to this show, those things are not considered magic. But turning into a bird is apparently magic. What if there's a semblance that turns you into animals? Your sister can literally fly. Weiss can literally summon things. Weiss is a necromancer. You cannot be serious.
How did you do that?
Well, I could explain it to you. Or you could ask your uncle.
Wait, you're letting them go and ask Crow? You know, the one you just said that blindly follows Ozpin?
But you need to question everything. Otherwise, you'll end up just as blind as Crow.
I thought you were trying to keep Yang away from Ozpin, yet all you have told her is some vague bull. And the fact that there's an evil witch called Salem. That's it. Why would you trust Crow to tell her the whole truth? She literally made really poor arguments as to why she shouldn't be trusting Crow and Ozpin. You cannot be serious. I swear to God, Raven is like one of the dumbest characters in this volume. Yes, go and ask your uncle who blindly trusts Ozpin. Like, you're such an idiot. Why don't you tell her what she needs to know now? What the heck? So now Team Ranger are at the house again because we ran out of money for some locations, I guess. Oh my god, it's Yang and she gives Rwby a hug. By the way, remember when Yang said this?
You are in so much trouble when I find you.
Rwby never gets in trouble throughout the entire volume. So once again, this entire episode was just the characters sitting on their ass doing absolutely nothing. Now, it's not like I'm against characters having conversations and expository dialogue because it's like an important aspect of storytelling. But good lord, this was just awful. So now we're on episode 7 and it's once again characters just sitting in this house and talking about stuff. Rwby asks for sauce and says thank you despite not getting anything. And it's like we're wasting time on this, guys. I think I forgot to mention, but this volume is 14 episodes long.
Rwby bring it down. Oh, me? Did he see rendering that fight? He's out of control.
I'm sorry. I may have lost my temper momentarily.
Yes, guys, remember the stuff we did in volume 4? That's some crazy stuff. Oh my god. So Nora and Yang like arm wrestle, but then Yang does this thing. And obviously everyone assumed this is a rocket punch ability that she can do with her metal arm. But here is the thing. Throughout the rest of the show, she never uses this ability like ever again, despite it looking like it could be really useful. But get this. Apparently it wasn't supposed to be a rocket punch ability thing. Apparently it's just Yang detaching her arm, which for some reason flings Nora back. That's not how physics work. If she detaches her arm, Nora would just slam it on the table. It wouldn't like push her backwards. Seriously, and no one looked at this and thought to themselves, you know, maybe we should change the scene to communicate it better to our audience that this isn't an ability Yang has and it's just her detaching her arm. Like, seriously, you're telling me that no one said anything? Maybe someone did speak up about it and they didn't decide to change it. You cannot be serious.
It's been a long time. We've all grown in our own ways.
Hey, show, how about instead of telling me that they've grown, how about you actually show it? In what way did you grow? You mean just because you were able to defeat this one unverse that for some reason no one else was able to defeat? Ren and Nora had like absolutely no real development throughout the show. The heck do you mean you guys grew? We don't even know what exactly you had to grow from. You guys act exactly the same as you always did. I guess Yang is more moody than usual and Sean got better at fighting, I guess. but that's about it. That's just really lame. Rwby acts the same. Yang like learned nothing really. She acts the same. Nora acts the same. Weiss acts the same. Sean acts the same. Like, you guys are just full of crap. Need I remind you that the biggest issues Volume 1 to 3 had is that they didn't develop the characters properly. This was one of the biggest mistakes that the show has done. And now they want to pretend as if they were on some big journey that changed them all or something. When it's just you four being complete morons by walking to Mistral. Don't act like you guys changed.
Well, think back to when we were all at Beacon. Would you say you ever did anything foolish or embarrassing? Or do you think you were perfect?
You guys literally walked all the way to Mistral for 6 to 8 months. That is way more embarrassing than anything you guys did at Beacon.
I may have been a little too gung-ho from time to time.
That's all you got, Yang. You still go around throwing temper tantrums. You haven't changed at all.
I tried to 1v1 a Nevermore on the second day of school.
Wait, why would you bring that up? And not the fact you were trying to 1v1 a Deathstalker and almost got yourself killed? You didn't 1v1 a Nevermore. You had your team helping you out. Did they forget what a Nevermore is, or did they seriously believe she was 1v1ing it?
Well, that embarrassment, that desire to go back and tell yourself not to be so stupid, that just proves you're not the same person you used to be.
How about you go back and tell yourself to not walk to Mistral for 6 to 8 months? And once again, everyone is sitting on the couches talking again.
You forgot to tell everyone what you did to Crow and my mother.
My ability to reincarnate, though a curse, isn't without a few key benefits. Using this power, I was able to gift the Bronwyn twins the ability to see more. I gave them the ability to turn into birds.
Uncle?
You turned them into birds.
All right, now you're just messing with us.
Why would you do something like that? I mean, what is wrong with you?
Oh no! You made them able to turn into birds! Oh, the horror! So how exactly is that a bad thing? Why would something like that be so terrible that would be kept a secret? They can turn into birds at will. It's not like they are permanently stuck being birds. If anything, that just sounds super beneficial. And this is so funny because everyone acts like as if this is some great sin or something. Yang's mom, she turned into a bird! Like, are you sure this show isn't a comedy and I'm just falling for it? If that's so, then thumbs up show, you got me. Also, doesn't that seem kinda racist to complain about the ability to turn into a bird, considering they live in a world filled with people who have animal traits?
Granting this power to them was no trivial task.
Okay, so have you done this with others? Like General Ironwood or Professor Goodwitch?
As helpful as that might be, unfortunately, it is not that simple. My power is finite, and if I'm being honest, dwindling. The amount that I gifted to Crow and Raven was, all things considered, rather minuscule. Centuries ago, I sacrificed a great deal of magic to 4 young women.
Wait, you didn't give any of the headmasters or Glinda herself any magical abilities, despite the fact they're supposed to be your trusted allies? Yet you gave 2 bandits the ability to turn into birds? Are you kidding me? So your magical powers are dwindling, but none of the maidens? I'm sorry, but isn't that your magic? This is his magic he gave away to the maidens. Yet they are still really powerful? And yet Aspen is the only one whose magic is dwindling? And the show never explains the reasoning for it. What sense does that make? You cannot be serious.
If Rwby sticks around, then I will too. If there's one thing I know about her, it's that she somehow always knows the right thing to do.
Oh, does she? Yeah, it was totally the right thing to do to walk all the way to Mistral for 6 to 8 months instead of taking public transport. It was totally the right thing to do to not stop the train with your super speed and hit the brakes. It was totally the right thing to try and run past Mercury instead of just using the door behind her. Also, I want everyone to keep this line from Yang in mind because it will be relevant in Volume 7.
No more lies. No more half-truths.
I'm sorry, but was them turning into birds really the only thing that Raven wanted Ozpin and Crow to tell Yang about? Was that seriously not relevant enough to bring up to convince her to stay? Again, they're just all acting like this is some great sin from Ozpin when it's like nothing. This is Ozpin's terrible secret other than Salem? You cannot be serious. And this was pretty much episode 7. Like, seriously, we're halfway through the volume and barely anything was accomplished. Somehow Raven still has this moron on her team despite the fact he revealed the location to someone he didn't even know. Also, amazing hiding spot that you could just set up this big wall here, which is like not really hidden at all. How no one found you guys amazes me.
Raven? Crow? They're birds!
So now we cut to Rwby like chilling outside and then Yang and Weiss come in afterwards as well. Look guys, the whole gang is back together. Yep, everyone is here and no one else is missing. So anyways, Rwby talks about how she wished Blake was here and Yang gets all angry over it.
Don't you want her here?
Why would I want her here?
Are you still mad at her for leaving?
Oh, whatever gave you that idea, Rwby?
You know, I don't understand. How come she is angry at only Blake for leaving her, but isn't also mad at Rwby for doing the exact same thing? She left at home for 6 to 8 months, walking all the way to Mistral. I unironically have seen people actually defend Rwby over this by saying stuff like, oh, she's her sister and she understands. Rwby was trying to connect with Yang after she lost her arm and did her best to take care of her. You know, despite the fact we never actually saw any of that, because after she left her room, it cuts to her leaving with Team Juniper. The reason Yang should be upset with Rwby is because she decided to travel to Haven for 6 to 8 months on foot instead of telling the authorities about Cinder and letting them handle it in Mistral. It was completely unnecessary for Rwby to do that, especially since she's just a first-year dropout. That's not to say Rwby is out of character for wanting to help, but she put herself in serious danger by being so irrational. Yang even says there's no guarantee she made it. What if Rwby was in serious danger? What if she could have gotten herself killed? She didn't even tell Crow about where she was going. Yang had multiple reasons to be upset at Rwby, and all we need from them is to acknowledge it and talk about it. I don't want to hear this "they're sisters, they understand" excuse. Because if you seriously want the relationship to be so stale and shallow that they're not even allowed to argue with each other just for a little bit, then I don't know what to tell ya. Heck, I don't understand why they're not mad at her, considering she just completely abandoned you guys without telling you where she went. She never even mentioned that she had parents to you guys, which is not a good look for her. So now we're with Blake just chilling on the balcony and sees that Ilya has left a note for her. Things going too far, not sure what to do. Find a quiet spot, I'll find you. Come alone, please. She doesn't seriously expect Blake to be this freaking stupid that she'll just come all alone. Blake has no reason to follow this letter, because telling her to come alone sounds very suspicious. So now we cut back to Yang sitting in her room looking at a photo of them because she just misses Blake so much. And then Weiss comes in to have a conversation about it. Yang is all like, you don't understand how it's like to be lonely, Weiss, and Weiss explains her side of the story.
Ty was always busy with school and Rwby couldn't even talk yet. I had to pick up the pieces. I had to keep things together. Alone.
Okay, so there's something I want to talk about regarding Yang's backstory. She keeps talking about how she was the one who had to take care of everything and raise Rwby. Now, a common conception I see regarding Ty is that he was a neglectful parent who was never there for his kids. And this is something the show has never said at all. They're only saying this based on the fact that Yang says she had to take care of everything. Like, am I supposed to believe that she was able to take care of herself and Rwby as like a 4-year-old? But we have no actual detail on how Ty was as a parent, especially since the last time we saw him, he seemed to have a good relationship with Yang. The only info we really got was that he sorta shut down after Summer left, but this is too vague and doesn't specify how long that was. And the second thing she says is that he was busy with his teaching job to have any time at all for them. I don't know about that one. Even if we are supposed to believe that he didn't have time with his kids, did he not bother hiring a babysitter or anything? And it's not like Ty like wastes his money or anything. There's no mention of anything like that. I would assume that because because he's a huntsman that they would be financially stable. How the heck did Summer even have time for you guys if she's constantly out on huntsman missions? Again, if I go back to Daredevil and compare Yang to Karen, Karen had like an actual backstory about how crappy her home life was with her family. She actually has dealt with abandonment and feeling like she has to be the one who keeps it all together. Her mom died and her father is wasting money on stuff they can't afford. Karen even specifically said that where they live sucks and that her mom only tolerated it for her dad. Karen is like a very emotional character in the show, and we understand why she acts the way that she does. Even in the main show, she feels like she has to go off and deal with things by herself. Yang is just whatever. Yang also has a pretty big support group than Karen does. Like, ignoring the whole Yang friends we never see again thing, Karen doesn't really have any genuine friends other than Matt and Foggy. Like, this could have actually benefited the show if they actually gave Yang a backstory that explained how hard her life was. Heck, cut out the whole Ren and Nora backstory and replace it with Yang's home life when she was a child. That could have actually benefited in developing Yang in Volume 4.
You're right, though. I don't know loneliness like you do. I have my own version, and I'll bet Blake has her own version too.
I'm sorry, but she has her own version of loneliness or something, despite the fact she has loving parents. She was never really lonely. Again, the fact that Blake never mentioned to you guys that she has parents is not a good look for her. If they had stuck with the idea that she was an orphan who was born into the White Fang, then maybe I could have given it some leeway. But since that whole idea has been thrown out the window, it just makes Blake look worse. How do they know that Blake isn't like in a circumstance where she can't reach them, even if she wants to? Like, what if Blake is dead? They don't entertain that at all, especially since the White Fang are after her.
She doesn't have to be alone though. I was here for her. We all were. She chose to leave us.
Why do you think she did that? The entire time Blake was at Beacon, she was afraid to open up to people. She tried to keep her past separated from us. She tried to protect us. Eventually, those walls she put up came down.
And how exactly is that a good look? How exactly is she protecting you guys by just abandoning you and not telling you anything? That's your defense for why Blake left you guys?
How could I be there for her if she doesn't let me? What if I needed her here for me?
Why do you like Blake so much? I'm sorry, but you like barely interacted in the previous volumes. The closest we kinda got was her telling her about Raven. But here is the thing, Blake is not the only one who knows about Yang's backstory. Jean literally mentioned Raven as Yang's mom in episode 1.
Yang's mom?
So what I said in the previous volume about her being her closest friend is just thrown out the window. And I highly doubt Rwby would have ever told them directly about Yang's backstory like this, because she had no reason to talk about Raven. So Blake isn't like some special snowflake that gets privileged information from Yang. Yang has no reason to want to be there for her when she's ready, if she doesn't decide to apologize and show accountability for her actions. So anyways, Blake goes to a dark place and meets up with Ilya, and she gets ambushed by 2 other White Fang members. And once again, Blake was unable to avoid them despite the fact that Aura can sense people even when she doesn't know they're there.
Have you ever felt like you were being watched without knowing that someone was there?
Yeah.
Blake is also acting like she got badly hurt. I guess she just completely forgot to turn on her aura. You know, despite the fact she meets up with a White Fang member who, according to her, is close to almost ending up like Adam.
I'm not good at a lot of memory-related things. It's really, really bad.
There's no such thing as innocent. There's no right thing to do. Only what's best for us. But you know what snuffs out hate? Fear. I don't like hurting people. But I'll tell you this, it's gotten us results.
So Ilya openly admitted she's fine with child murder, considering what happened during the fall of Beacon, yet she's more redeemable than Adam according to Blake. So Ilya explains to Blake that she's gonna kill her parents and that she's gonna send Blake directly to Adam, and then she reveals that she was gay for Blake all this time. How am I supposed to believe that you care about her if you wanna directly send her to the guy who really hates her for betraying him?
No! What?
Again, how did none of them sense that Sun was nearby? They can detect people without them knowing they're there.
Have you ever felt like you were being watched without knowing that someone was there?
Yeah.
And also, this is like really stupid. They were able to knock both of them out with just 1 hit, when you have to remember that they can tank heavy blows with their aura. So Blake is on their way to go save her parents, but from the looks of it, they are already under attack. Oh, screw you. You're seriously gonna sit there and tell me that they all get one-shotted by a bullet when once again Aura can tank heavy blows? You cannot be serious. And this isn't the only thing that happens. Gira somehow one-shots everyone and knocks them out. Remember when Rwby was able to tank an explosion to her face and still be fine? Remember when Yang was hit in the air and she fell back down and she was fine? You cannot be serious. So now we're on episode 9 and Cinder found her camp. Oh no.
We planned for this. Pack your things, then break down camp. We're moving.
Why would you say that right in front of them? She prepared for this but didn't think to have some signal to communicate to her group to get ready to leave without her blatantly saying it in front of her enemies? Raven sure is a smart person indeed.
2 children you've tricked into following you. A disgraced Atlesian scientist, and a fall maiden with a surname so appropriate she probably picked it herself.
Aren't you perceptive?
It's what's kept me alive.
Ah yes, Raven, you're so perceptive you can't seem to tell when one of your subordinates is a complete moron who spills the beans on where your location is. So Cinder wants the Spring Maiden from Raven and she asks Vernal to come out.
So, this is the long-lost Spring Maiden.
I'm sorry, but how the heck would you think that this is the Spring Maiden? Did Leah not have like some picture of what the actual Spring Maiden looked like before she left? Or are you seriously implying that Raven so happened to find someone who looks very similar to what the previous Spring Maiden looked like? Cause this seems to be very contrived. There's no way she actually happened to find someone who looks very similar to the previous Spring Maiden. So Cinder asks Raven to prove that she's the Spring Maiden. So Vernal is closing her eyes and stretches her hands out to make it seem like she's using her powers. I'm sorry, but for someone who knows how the Maiden powers work, wouldn't she clearly know that you don't need to close your eyes and reach out your hands? The fact she closes her eyes is also very suspicious, because we all know that the eyes of the Maidens glow when they use their powers. This is what makes it even worse. So let me explain. The reason Raven is wearing a mask is to hide her glowing eyes, which is apparently something the writers have said in their volume 5 commentary or something, that they thought this was a very clever way to trick Cinder into believing that Vernal has the Maiden powers. But here is the obvious issue with that. Raven is the only one in her tribe who wears a mask. No one else in her tribe are wearing masks. Why though? Wouldn't it make more sense if everyone wears a mask? The fact that Raven is wearing a mask should be very suspicious to them. Tell Raven to take off her mask and tell Vernal to open her eyes when she uses her powers. If they do that, then their entire plan would fail. So they're asking Raven for Vernal to come with them so they can open the vault to the relic. And by asking, I mean forcing her.
I need time to think this over.
You don't have time. In 2 days, Haven Academy will be destroyed by the White Fang.
What? So we skipped an entire month and now we only have 2 days left before the White Fang attack on Beacon? So what the heck has Team Ranger done for a whole month? Train? You mean the one we saw in like 1 episode and then never again because they all just chill in a house all the time? No amount of training in a single month is gonna prepare them for a fight against a maiden. Need I remind you what happened to Pyrrha? So Raven tells them that if they're gonna agree to open the vault, then she wants her brother dead.
He has Rwby.
If we leave that school a bloody mess, it will draw the attention of the authorities.
We wait until the full moon. Leo invites Crow and his little fighters to Haven the same night Hazel and Adam arrive with the White Fang. As soon as the battle is won, the White Fang demolishes Haven, and any evidence we may have left behind is lost along with the school.
Yes, amazing plan. Try and kill Crow in Haven where all the others are gonna be as well, instead of luring him away from the school and taking him out like that, because later on they're all just having a cringy fight at Haven. Also, Cinder agrees to this stupid plan. Watts is telling her that it's a stupid plan because if they are gonna go up against Crow, he wouldn't go down without a fight, and it would cause a scene and attract the authority. As soon as the battle is won, you have no idea how long that would take. The heck? You really wanna go up against Rwby? Do you not remember what she was able to do against you previously? All you need is to kill Crow and she'll open the vault. Bringing Rwby along could literally kill you. You lost an eye and an arm because of her silver eyes and had to recover for 6 to 8 months. What if Rwby runs away? She can literally pick people up and transport them somewhere else. She can use that to take Crow and then run away. You cannot be serious. So we get back to this cringy fight back in Menagerie. Seriously, why did you not dodge the attack that you could clearly see happening before you threw the spear? And this broke his aura? You're seriously telling me that this one single fireball was strong enough to break his aura immediately? You cannot be serious. Why are you just standing there looking at it like an idiot and not move away? So Blake and Son come in for the rescue. Okay, you got him, Blake. Now freeze both of them. Blake, 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 freeze both of them. So Blake decides to leave both of them so they can fight them instead of just taking their weapon away and freezing both of them and be done with it. So then we cut back to Raven, who is just sitting in her room, and then Vernal comes in to say this.
I followed them as you asked.
Did they spot you?
Of course not. They have a ship 2 clicks west of here.
Okay, once again, people can sense you with their aura. There is no way you were able to follow them without them detecting you at all. Again, stealth is completely impossible in Rwby.
Have you ever felt like you were being watched without knowing that someone was there?
Yeah.
So obviously Raven is gonna betray Cinder, but then she teleports herself to Mistral. And after this we cut back to Blake, where Ilya is waiting for her and is ready to fight her. So back at the House of Boredom, Ospen and Crow have this boring conversation about something boring.
Does that mean Salem has the beacon relic?
No. Thankfully, she does not. It's true that the relic at Haven is very much at risk. Let's just say I made finding the relic at Beacon a bit more challenging than at the other schools.
What? Why would you put that amount of effort to the other relics as well? Why would you put those ones at an obvious place, but the one in Vale is at a more trickier spot? Are you trying to get humanity killed? So Leo is calling Crow and he tells him to gather everyone and meet him at Haven. You know, seeing as Haven is getting attacked like tomorrow and you guys spent like a month training or whatever, how come you never contacted Leo about the progress of gathering the huntsmen you asked for? He said he's gonna gather up a few huntsmen in a few weeks at most. So like, how come you never actually bothered asking him about that? You guys have literally been wasting your time for a whole month.
Says he had a breakthrough with the council. Thinks he might be able to get together a small raiding party for the bandits. He wants us to meet up at the school tomorrow night to walk us through it.
That sounds drastically different from your original conversation, does it not?
What? How is that drastically different from the original conversation? Leo clearly said he's gonna gather up huntsmen in a few weeks. A few weeks could mean any number. A whole month has like at least 4 weeks. He did not specify how long it would take because he said the council needs huntsmen way more currently. That is what makes them distrust Lionheart suddenly? Do you guys even proofread your script? So Raven is in Leo's office and he reveals that the only reason he's helping Salem is because he's afraid, which is the lamest reason ever. You know, this is something I really don't like about Lionheart's betrayal. It's just presented as something that Ospen making the choice of recruiting Lionheart at all was a mistake. Like, Salem doesn't do any complex stuff to make Lionheart fall under her. All she did was just threaten his life, which is just not compelling. Imagine if Dooku turning to the dark side was as simple as Palpatine threatened to kill me, so I have to side with him. This makes it far less personal. Like, Lionheart is meant to be one of Ospen's closest allies, so making the friendship just so disposable by his life being threatened takes away from their relationship. It would have been more engaging if Leo was actually turned to her side due to like her goals or her ideology. Leo is just such a lame character. So anyways, we cut back to the Belladonnas and Kali is just standing out in the open and doesn't get shot at. She's clearly exposed. Like, seriously, no one is able to land a hit on her. Kali in the scene is having insane plot armor. So we're back to this awful character confronting this other awful character.
Why do you feel like we have to hurt people to get our way? Because it works!
No, you should be saying something like, the humans ever since the beginning had no respect for the faunas, treated us horribly and being forced to serve under them, and several faunas' lives being taken without those who brought about it being allowed to get away. The White Fang wouldn't have to exist if they didn't bring us to this point and take away all that we love. These points are way more nuanced than the dribble Ilya spatted out. For some reason the fight scene looks so slow and boring. Like, didn't we have an awesome fight between two people in the previous volume? What What the heck happened? So during the fight, Ilya is turning off the lights in the living room so that Blake can't see her properly in the dark. I'm sorry, are you forgetting that faunas have night vision? Look, I get Pyrrha said.
Many faunas are known to have nearly perfect sight in the dark.
So it's clear that not all faunas can see quite well in the dark for some reason. But you have to remember that Blake can see in the dark, because she deliberately turned off the lights while infiltrating one of the White Fang meetings to escape Torchwick. So if anything, Blake would just see a dark blob walking around in the living room. And even if we want to entertain the idea that she can't see Ilya in the dark, she can just go and turn the lights back on. It's not like the power is out or anything, but instead of doing that, she deliberately sets her house on fire so that she is able to see Ilya. What the heck is wrong with you, Blake? You're endangering your family like this who are still in the building. You cannot be serious.
Ilya, please. You're a good person, but you're making all the wrong decisions.
Why is Ilya a good person? What is that even based off? Just because she was your friend? It better not be because she doesn't like killing innocents or anything, because that would be such a stupid point to bring up. So Gira and Sun come in and Ilya kicks her away. By the way, here is something funny that was presented to me. So in the version I have, Blake is just lying on the ground. But there is an alternate version I found on YouTube where Blake gets up and then runs away. So from what I was told is that the version where she runs away is like an updated version they uploaded later onto YouTube. And the version I have was the one they uploaded on the Roosterteeth website. Why did they do this change? Was it to explain why Blake suddenly disappears in between the cuts? But this just makes Blake look worse, because she just randomly decided to get up and then just run away. So Blake had the agency to help but chose not to for some reason. Why did you just put Blake in between the cuts where she would be lying on the ground? This is one of the dumbest changes I have ever seen in an attempt to fix something, by just ending up making your characters look worse. You cannot be serious. So they break off this pillar and the balcony thing is about to fall on Ilya, but then Gira comes in to save her. Damn, he must be incredibly strong to hold this thing without his aura. So one of the brothers gets up and decides to attack Gira, and then Blake, instead of grabbing him, she grabs Gira, and then they accidentally ended up killing him. I guess killing off other White Fang member is fine, but not Ilya. So they all leave the burning building, and look, the faunas are here, which gives Blake the brilliant idea to give out some cringe speech.
Humans didn't do this. We did this. We did this to ourselves. We're just as capable of hate and violence as the humans, but I don't think any of us would jump at the chance to point that out.
I'm sorry, are they freaking stupid or what? So Blake is saying faunas are just capable as causing harm as the humans. Yeah, like the fall of Beacon.
So why are we letting Adam do it for us? By doing nothing and staying silent, we let others speak and act in our place. And if we're not proud of the choices they make, then we have no one to blame but ourselves. This is the message Adam Taurus will bring to the world if no one stops him. But we can stop him!
So Gira's speech was about how the White Fang are evil and they need to be stopped. Blake's speech is about how the White Fang are evil and they need to be stopped. You're seriously telling me that the only way for the faunas to be convinced that they're just as capable and causing harm as the humans is by seeing the Belladonna's house getting attacked? I'm sorry, but how stupid are the faunas that they don't understand this? Again, are you just forgetting that the faunas were already against the White Fang ever since Volume 1? They know what the White Fang are and what they do. Blake did not add anything to her speech that wasn't already said in Gira's speech. So what, Adam assassinating Sienna wasn't convincing enough for them? The fall of Beacon wasn't convincing enough for them? Are they stupid?
I understand that to ask you to leave your homes and protect Haven Academy is asking you to put your lives at risk.
So why didn't you just go to Mistral and ask the Huntsman for help? Why are you involving a bunch of innocent civilians who can't fight?
I'll stand with you, if you'd have me.
You're not going anywhere.
Let her come.
Huh? You're just going to forgive her? After everything she did?
I am.
What? You're forgiving the crazy individual who just a few minutes ago attempted to murder both of your parents and bring you back to Adam? Are you kidding me? Does Blake just not believe in accountability? No, I'm not accepting this. This is horrible. You're a horrible person, Ilya. You will go to prison, and you will live the rest of your miserable life in a cage, knowing you'll never have Blake, that this island rejected you. It beat you. You're cancelled. Moving on. So here is the part where Gira mentions that it takes them 2 weeks to prepare and go to Mistral.
We have about 2 weeks before Adam's attack on Haven. We're going to need shields, training, whatever we can do to protect as many people as possible.
So like what? You wasted 2 whole months accomplishing absolutely nothing? Are you kidding me? Again, why did they not go to Mistral sooner and tell the authority about the attack on Haven? They literally show up later on to arrest the White Fang. You're seriously telling me that you were able to teach all of them how to fight in under 2 weeks? How long does it take to get to Mistral? Blake and the others showed up at the last minute. Why is everything just wrong? So Crow and the others meet up with Lionheart in Haven. We don't get to see any other location. They're all just stuck in this one room because, you know, we made like 14 episodes of nothing. Yang notices that Raven was just chilling on the balcony.
Mom?
You know, it's kinda weird how she still refers to Raven as her mom, considering she hangs out with harassers, kidnapped her friends, and was implied to have killed Huntsman. So Raven reveals Leo has betrayed them all.
We can beat Salem.
All that time spent spying for Ozpin and you still have no idea what you're dealing with. There is no beating Salem.
Would you like to elaborate on that then? Again, with just being vague when you seem to know more than you're letting on.
You're wrong. We've done things that most people would call impossible. And I know the only reason we were able to do it is because we didn't do it alone.
And what would those things be? You mean walking to Mistral for 6 to 8 months and almost dying in the process multiple times? I mean, yeah, that is pretty much an accomplishment indeed. You mean doing missions around the kingdom? Stuff huntsmen are supposed to do anyways? You're acting as if you've done the impossible when it's literally just standard things huntsmen do in this universe.
You sound just like your mother.
Oh, so Ruby's aura can tank a fireball, but Gira couldn't? You cannot be serious. So the cringe squad comes in and Hazel locks the door behind them.
No one's getting in, and no one is getting out.
You're acting as if huntsmen can't break through walls to escape. You know, considering we've seen characters break through stuff in earlier volumes and the characters were completely fine. Did you forget how strong the kids were in the earlier volumes? So they intentionally nerfed the characters? So like what? You're telling me characters like Nora and Yang can't smash through walls? What about Weiss and her summoning?
It was you. You sit on the Mistral Council. You had information on every huntsman and huntress in the kingdom. And you gave it all to her. I couldn't find any of them because you let her kill them.
Crow, weren't you just looking for huntsmen who don't work for the council? If there are people who don't work for the council, then how could Leo have info on all of them? Like, what if they moved to another kingdom? I mean, then again, they were apparently on the mission board for some reason, despite the fact they are supposed to be independent huntsmen. So I have no idea how that works. That fact is not even true, considering Blake later on clearly says that huntsmen were on their way.
More police are on their way, Adam. Huntsmen too.
So like what? Crow lied about there being no huntsmen?
Don't beat yourself up about it, Lionheart. I'm sure Tyrion and Hazel would have found them on their own eventually.
You're seriously trying to make me believe that 2 people were able to kill all huntsmen in the kingdom in the span of 6 to 8 months? Are huntsmen this incompetent when they are supposed to be noble warriors? Are you forgetting the Tyrion fight against Crow and how he actually put up a fight? Also, are you trying to make me believe that they all work independent and don't work in a team anymore? What was their plan if huntsmen took notice and stayed together to work out what happened to their fellow huntsmen? This is so incredibly unbelievable. It's like the show hates its own universe. You cannot be serious. So Jean now has some outburst and yells at Cinder. Now, it's clear that the reason he's so upset is because he's sad about Pyrrha's death, which a lot of people criticized the scene for.
I'm gonna make you pay for what you did! Do you hear me?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Pyrrha was like Jean's closest friend, so it kinda makes sense. But at the same time, the thing is Jean and Pyrrha weren't like together in the show really, and Jean wasn't really all that into her this whole time. He was dismissive of her even when they were friends. I'm pretty sure everyone would be mad that Pyrrha died, but Jean is like the only one who acts as if he lost his wife. So Cinder is like,
who are you again?
And then he starts attacking her. And this is like one of the worst fights I have ever seen. You know these fights where there are like so many characters on screen, but because they only want to focus on one we want, we get these awkward moments where characters just stand in the background just waiting for their cue. It's so embarrassing that it ends up being the funniest thing ever. None of the characters fight in groups. It's as if they forgot how to fight as a team. None of the characters during the fight also utilize dust to their advantage, other than Weiss, who creates ice walls. Wouldn't it be useful to freeze Hazel so he can't do anything? Does Jean not utilize dust? You mean to tell me that strategic genius Jean over here never thought to upgrade his weapons so that they can utilize dust? So Oscar confronts Leo and he shoots like this fire rock thing at him and he breaks his aura. Are you kidding me? Or was this supposed to be like some visual showing that he didn't forget to turn on his aura? Then why would you use this visual to begin with when that's the indication that their aura breaks? When previously the characters never had some visual that shows their aura got damaged. Oh wait a second, Volume 4 did that when Tyrion stabbed Rwby. So is this some kind of indication that they dealt a heavy blow? You're seriously gonna tell me that Tyrion stabbing Rwby is a heavier blow than getting explosions to their face? Literally a few minutes ago, Rwby didn't have this visual cue, so you can't just bend the rules and give Oscar this bull. So I would have to assume that he broke his aura? So you're telling me he broke his aura after one attack? You cannot be serious. And somehow he's better at fighting Leo, who is supposed to be a well-trained and experienced huntsman after just 1 month of training. Wouldn't Oscar be even more exhausted considering Ospen had to train both Team Ranger and Oscar, so he would probably have less time to train Oscar properly. Oscar really shouldn't have adjusted just like that. Weiss is suddenly so terrible at using her glyphs that she hits this random pillar behind her. The nerfing of Weiss' Schnee is real. The nerfing is so bad that her summon suddenly takes forever to get out of her glyph, and Vernal just one-shots it like that. Are we forgetting that Weiss has time dilation? I don't even understand why this whole fight is even happening when Cinder is a maiden and can just one-shot everyone. Weiss is trying to use her summon in the middle of fighting Vernal. The nerfing of Weiss' Schnee is real. Her nerf got so bad that Vernal was able to break her aura after one shot from her laser weapon. Damn, that must mean her laser weapon is stronger than an explosion to their face. So Rwby gets PTSD over Pyrrha's death and she activates her silver eyes. And for some reason it didn't knock Rwby out like last time. The thing that knocks her out was Emerald hitting her head. I guess her aura just went on vacation. And the only thing it affects is Cinder's unversed arm? Are you kidding me? Are you forgetting that the silver eyes also affect maiden powers? Because in Volume 3 Cinder didn't have any unversed features on her body. Now this is another thing the writers just suddenly decided to change. In Volume 4, Salem established that the reason Cinder got one-shotted by Rwby is because she has the maiden powers. It's what she literally says.
Even without her new power, it should have been effortless.
It is because of the maiden's power. Make no mistake, Cinder. You hold the key to our victory. But your newfound strength brings with it a crippling weakness.
Yet later volumes want to pretend as if it only affects unversed. So they either forgot or they intentionally cheated. And I have seen some defenses around this, which I find to be completely nonsensical. So one of the defenses I have seen is that the reason it hurt Cinder is because she got half of the maiden powers by using this beetle unversed. So the defense is because she used like half of the unversed, it means means it's inside her and that's how she got affected by the silver eyes, this is the most Kingdom Hearts-esque defense I have ever heard, and it's not even backed up by anything in the show. If it really was the beetle that did that, then Salem should have actually clarified that it's the beetle that did that and not just say it's the maiden's power. That's not addressing the method of how she got, that's just assessing the power. If she was addressing the method, she should have addressed the unversed bug, but that's not what she did. One of the defenses I have seen, and I'm not kidding, is that it's not the maiden's power as in all the maiden powers, but it's the maiden's power.
It is because of the maiden's power.
Like particularly Amber's power and how Cinder received it. That makes no sense, because during the conversation they never mentioned Amber specifically or the beetle. You can't use vague things the characters say and twist it into something completely different. Another defense I heard is that you could take that as Salem is just lying to her. Like, why in the heck would she be lying to Cinder? She's lying about something that would put her subordinate in a position where she would be more likely to get killed. What reason do her followers have to keep following her if she keeps playing them over like this? This isn't what you should be doing to your followers. You would want them to respect you, so you'd have to show that same respect to them, otherwise they just betray you eventually. And even if you want to say it's the unversed, why in the heck would Salem give her an unversed arm to begin with then? That just makes the effect of the silver eyes even worse. Why wouldn't she ask Watts to give her a metal arm? You're deliberately nerfing your own follower. The other defense I see constantly brought up is, well, why weren't Raven and Penny affected by the silver eyes? The obvious answer to that is because it's a plot hole. They forgot what the rules were previously and just changed it to only affect the unversed. And also, remember what happened when she got affected? Not only did she lost an eye, she also lost her arm, and she could barely speak at all for 6 to 8 months. If this is what it does to her, then it should have happened again. Not just to her, but also Raven, yet they both act completely fine. Also, this is the dumbest thing ever. She was on her knees and instead of swinging his sword at her, he decided to do a stabbing motion. Like, wow, how lucky that Jean decided to do that and just barely hit her. This is so stupid. This is also some heavy plot armor for Jean. Instead of just killing him, she decides to step on him and then switches her focus on Weiss. Jean should be dead. And then Cinder throws a spear at Weiss and she's dying because of it. So Jean runs over to Weiss and Oscar and Noah run over to Rwby. During all of this, I guess everyone is just standing still and letting all the characters do their thing. Cinder should have been able to kill all of them. Leo tells Hazel that Oscar is Ozpin who is getting reincarnated, and Hazel gets big angry, and this is where we get introduced to the stupid freaking thing that Hazel does. So basically his semblance makes him able to be numb to pain or something, so he injects himself with dust in order to use its abilities and to buff himself? Okay, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. How the heck can he put dust in himself without just bleeding out and dying? The excuse that the show gives is that he regenerates his aura very quickly.
I don't know how that big guy's still standing. He recharges his aura faster than I've ever seen.
So what, we're just cheating on how aura works again? That wouldn't actually really matter because the open wounds would just take away his aura and still lead him to bleed out and die. Especially since he uses like dust powers. Wouldn't the dust just burn his insides? Are we forgetting that using up your semblance also drains your aura, which is what was established in Volume 4, which is also a contradiction, but I already went over that. So Hazel would quickly run out of aura with him stabbing himself with dust, both combined with him using his semblance. Like, how the heck does that work? This is just so stupid. Like, why couldn't Hazel just have embedded dust into his clothing? Remember when Volume 2 established that this is a thing?
Embedding dust into clothing is an age-old technique. It could have been anyone.
I believe the only reason they did that was just because they thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if one of the characters stabbed themselves with dust to power themselves up?
Is that a problem?
I'm not sure. But right now we've got the upper hand.
Leo! Open the path to the vault!
Wait, they're opening the path to the vault? I'm sorry, but didn't Raven agree to do that after they killed Crow? Cinder and the others should be suspicious that Raven just gave up on her own motivation to want to head to the vault. Was Raven hoping they wouldn't question that at all? I'm amazed Weiss is still alive and barely breathing when Sienna dies like instantly. Why is everyone just allowing them to go down there? They asked Yang to stop them, but like, where the heck is Crow? Is he just gone? Oh, that's right, this is a turn-based RPG where characters are only allowed to act when the show says it's their turn. So Ozpin wants Oscar to let him take over, and he questions why Hazel is so mad at him. So basically he explains that Hazel's sister went to Beacon to become a huntress and she accidentally died during a training mission, and Hazel blames Ozpin for her loss. So you're telling me Hazel is mad that a child died and sees it as a great sin, but he's fine with murdering other children and huntsmen all over Mistral? He's literally attempting to not only murder Oscar but also Ren and Nora. That's insane. So I'd have to assume that Hazel is delusional, which is gonna be important for later on in the show. So Jean is like crying and suddenly he's unlocked his semblance. So he's basically able to transfer his aura to other people and basically heal them. Raven, Cinder and Vernal go down the elevator and they make their way to the vault. Rwby wakes up and also makes her way over to the others. Yes, Rwby, take away Jean's hands from her wound. This is the silly thing to do considering you don't know how his powers work. So we're even shown that Jean was able to fix her up completely? Like, you're telling me he fixed her insides and fixed up her skin? So he's able to fix up serious injuries like her internal organs, but isn't able to fix Weiss's face scar for some reason? Okay. Vernal approaches the vault and Raven is ready to attack Cinder, but then Cinder freezes Raven and she ends up killing Vernal. She wants to get the Spring Maiden's powers, but then it's revealed, oh no, Vernal isn't the maiden. It was Raven the whole time. Rwby is fighting against Mercury and he kicks her weapon away, so he like slow punches her and then she does a headbutt? You're telling me Mercury, the guy who was fast enough to kick Rwby out of her semblance, isn't fast enough to dodge her headbutt? You cannot be serious.
How about you don't complain and just be thankful you unlocked your semblance when you did?
My semblance?
How else do you think you're healing her, dummy?
No. I don't think I'm healing her. Our aura heals her bodies. It feels more like I'm using my aura to amplify hers.
That's still you healing her, because you're the one giving her aura. Aura has never shown healing someone when they're unconscious. Like, what?
Aren't you worried about running out?
Pyrrha once told me I've got a lot of it. I still believe her.
Wait, you still believe her? You have to believe Pyrrha's words? Did you never bother checking your aura count? Why does Sean even have a lot of aura in comparison to everyone else? Is Sean just a special snowflake? Oh look, it's Adam and he's here with an army of 7 people. So thanks to there being 7 people helping putting out the bombs, no one is on lookout at all, so anyone can just stumble in and see the White Fang setting up the bombs and report it to the Mistral police. So Blake finally shows up with everyone else from Menagerie. So once again, Blake decided to bring in a bunch of innocent civilians into this fight instead of just getting the police and huntsmen involved. The police do show up, but once again we are just not allowed to see any independent huntsmen in this universe. It's been 5 volumes and they have either died or are just not around. Elia was able to disarm all the bombs, so Adam angrily rushes to attack Blake, but then all of a sudden Blake one-shots Adam and knocks him over. So you just completely nerfed Adam in this scene, considering he was able to easily beat her in volume 3. You cannot be serious. Weiss stabs Hazel with her unversed, so the fact that she was able to stab Hazel with it means that he doesn't have aura. How is Hazel not dead? So the others finally reunite with Blake again. Oh my god.
Yay! Go! No!
You're telling me the girl who has illusion powers just jumps in front of her like an idiot and was unable to catch her despite the fact that Yang is just doing a light jog? Throughout the entire fight, they just nerf the characters whenever they feel that it's convenient for the story. So we cut to Raven and Cinder and we get a fight between these two. I gotta admit, this fight is actually pretty decent. The music in the background is also really good. It feels like they spent most of their budget on this fight alone. I don't really think I have anything to complain about really. Aside from the fact that somehow Vernal was able to survive all these falling rocks, considering she's lying there and slowly dying, which is what makes Raven able to even win this fight due to a surprise attack from Vernal. So Raven opens the vault and Yang comes in to confront her.
I'm going to make you regret ever coming back.
More police are on their way, Adam. Huntsmen too.
Oh, huntsmen are on their way, Keep that line in mind for later on in the show. So Adam runs away like a loser, and then afterwards we see all the faunus just run away. I'm sorry, didn't they come to defend the school? They're seriously gonna let all these people die? Or are they just running away because they can't have people just awkwardly standing outside in the background?
Are you hurt? No! I just remember you being more of the quiet one.
When was Blake ever the quiet one? She was always loud throughout the show ever since the whole White Fang thing. She yelled like so many times in the series.
Stop calling him a rapscallion. Well, maybe we were just tired of being, and none of us know what it is. People's lives are at stake.
I just remember you being more of the quiet one.
Back with Yang, she confronts her mom and we get this amazing conversation.
What happened to the last Spring Maiden?
What does it matter to you?
It's all over your face. How could you?
She was scared when we found her. No matter how much training I put her through, she never learned. What I did
wasn't personal.
It was mercy.
Which is it, Mom? Are you merciful? Or are you a survivor?
What? That's not a contradiction, Yang. She was willing to survive and show mercy by putting the end of the previous maiden's life for power. Like you can literally do both.
You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. The choices I've had to make.
You're right. I don't know you. I only know the Raven Dad told me about. She was troubled and complicated, but she fought for what she believed in, whether it was her team or her tribe. Did you kill her too?
What the heck are you saying? Yang is acting like the Raven she was told about when she was a child was different from the one she's talking to, as to suggest she changed for the worse. But she's clearly the one fighting for her tribe. Saying that someone is fighting for their beliefs doesn't mean they are good or evil. That's just neutral.
Who do you think you are lecturing me? Standing there shaking like a scared little girl.
Maybe you should have told Yang about what's actually going on with Salem instead of being so vague about it. And this conversation makes Raven completely change her beliefs despite how stupid it is. You cannot be serious. So she enters this, like, alternate realm or something? Has Ozpin ever attempted to use that against Salem? A door that can't be opened by anyone else besides the maidens behind like this different realm seems like a very perfect way to trap Salem in. Salem's clicker thing confronts Leo and she ends up killing him because he failed to get the relic. And that's just it with Leo. Wow, what a waste of a character. So Yang comes up the elevator and Emerald becomes big sad over Cinder being gone and activates her semblance to like scare the others or something. Then we cut to Hazel escaping with both of them. I'm sorry, but like how the heck did they escape? The place was surrounded and there are searchlights that would have caught them trying to flee the building. Or are you telling me that everyone just left? Why would the police and huntsmen just leave the area when there are people clearly getting attacked in the building? Same thing goes for Adam. You cannot be serious.
He was the only one to escape tonight. Won't support a leader that abandons his people. He won't have their help after this. He'll have no one at all.
And you assume that's the case because Adam could just be running away to another base and he could be gathering up another group of White Fang goons. Just because one mission failed, you automatically assume no one is gonna help him anymore? So Blake goes to the others and they just accept her back into the group as if nothing happened. I'm sorry, is Blake just not gonna apologize for what she did?
That's all that matters. That we're all here together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you mean, yeah? No, hold on. Blake is just not gonna apologize for running away like a coward and not telling her friends where she went to, likely making them extremely worried she might be dead or kidnapped? Heck, she never even told you guys that she has parents. Are you kidding me? And this isn't just in this volume. Throughout the entire show, she never apologized for what she did. And everyone is just fine with that? How shallow of a friend group is that? That you can't even have them argue over something and be mad at each other for? Now let's just forgiven and forgotten. You cannot be serious. Oscar tells Crow that they gotta bring the lamp to Atlas and the volume ends. We even get after credits that just never goes anywhere at all. We don't see Ty or Raven in the next volume, so what's even the point of this? And that's the end. I mean, I can't really come up with anything else to close out these episodes by always going, wow, that was such a disaster, this is really bad, and other bad words. Like, what do you even expect me to say at this point? The same exact issues that plagued the previous volumes are still here, but just made even worse by how much of a mess this volume was, with the broken plot points and weak characters and world building. I can't believe this whole volume was 14 episodes where barely anything happens until the very end, with characters just doing nothing and sitting in a house. This show keeps surprising me by how many issues it keeps introducing, because like the volume 1 review was like only around 40 minutes long, and every video's runtimes just keep increasing, because they keep introducing new problems that don't line up with this universe or what was established in previous volumes. I'm not amazed that so many people checked out after volume 4 and 5, because these are some of the worst pieces of writing I have ever seen. Sure, the previous volumes were bad, but that didn't mean it wasn't salvageable, until volume 3 completely ruined everything by destroying Beacon and forcing these underdeveloped characters to go on this padded out mission because the writers don't seem to know how to properly pace their show. The quality of the show keeps dropping after each new volume, so yes, volume 6 is gonna introduce even more issues and it's gonna get even worse from there. So remember people to like and subscribe and goodbye.